kitchen, folks. It's another experimental day in home brewing. In this film today, I'm going to attempt to make a Mixto and Earl Grey flavoured cider. Let's have a look at those key ingredients. So, what the heck's Mixto? Well, it's not that mysterious. It is simply Lidl's version of Vimto. So I'm not going to use all of this. This is concentrated grape raspberry and blackcurrant squash. I'm going to use probably half of that, alongside 350 grams of dextrose monohydrate brewing sugar, 5 Earl Grey tea bags to give it some lemony zest, Lalvin 71B yeast, Young's yeast nutrient, and pectolase to hopefully achieve a clearer brew. And of course it's a cider, so the star of the show is apples, and I've got two different varieties here. I've got this massive variety. I have no idea what they are. Anyone can tell me, that would be great. Obviously that one looks a bit knackered, so I'm going to be chopping most of it away. So these big ones like this, my dad picked from an apple tree he found near Whitby a couple of weeks ago. Mixing those with my own cooking apples from my own tree in the back garden. So I don't know what these are going to be like, but I'm hoping the mixture will work out just nicely. As ever, it's always an experiment. You never know, but I've got a good feeling that it might work out. So I'm making my cider today with my Tectake Steam Press, which I'll put together and talk you through very shortly. I will be fermenting in the demijohn, the good old-fashioned 1 gallon 4.54 litre warhorse. I've talked enough, let's crack on. So first things first in today's recipe, I'm going to get my 350 grams of brewing sugar and put it into this saucepan. I'm going to use a little bit of tap water. I don't usually use tap water, but I don't want to buy spring water just for a squirt. So literally that is enough. And then on top of this, I'm going to pour my Mixto. And I've used about half of what was there, so there's probably about almost 400 ml gone in there. It's a concentrated syrup. It also contains preservatives. I don't really worry about that, but I am going to give this a little simmer now, and that does sometimes help to nullify their effect. So I've got my brewing sugar and my Mixto and water in the pan. I'm just going to put this on a low heat and turn that right down. There's no rush, and I want it to come to a simmer. So I'll just pop the lid on and leave that to do its thing. Nothing else to do there. Now let's sort these apples out. Before I can do that though, I need to put the steam press together. So that's the base of the steam press. It's got 4 litres of tap water in it, warm tap water straight from the tap. In the middle goes this pan here, which sits above that water. Now when this water comes to a boil, it sends out steam, and that steam comes out of that vent. It then hits the fruit, which will be in this basket, which then drips down into here and comes out of that hole down there, through this pipe into the demijohn. It's very simple, but it's a really effective way of getting your apple juice. So I'm putting that on top, and now it's time to deal with my apples, because I'm going to be chopping them and putting them in there. So for each apple, it's simply a case of cutting them into halves and then into quarters. So half and then half again. I do that to expose the flesh, because if I don't do that and just chuck them in whole, then this will prevent the steam from getting to that bit, which is what I want to get the juice out of. So then with each of these, they just go into the steam press. I've now got to fill this up. But before I go any further, I'm going to put my Earl Grey tea bags in the bottom, so that when the juice comes out of the apples, it filters through the tea bags. So I thought I had 5, but I've got 4. That'll be fine. Okay, you see the method in my madness, hopefully. So this is one of the big Whitby apples. They're actually from Sands End near Whitby. Yeah, my dad's a hero. He goes out and finds me stuff like this. So they go in the pan as well. Nothing wrong with them. I can leave all the bits like this and that, it's fine. Anything that's excessively bad, like this one looks quite bad, I'll have a further look at. So I'm just going to cut down there, and actually that looks okay to me. That's fine, it's just the skin that's been discoloured, so that can go in. And I'll just cut this down again as well, 4 pieces, and I'll keep going. Yeah, they look good. Nice white flesh. Pips can stay in, they don't end up into the brew, don't worry about them. Okay, I've got to fill this right up. I've got a lot of apples to deal with, so I'll come back to you when it's full. Right, that is now full, and the lid is just about fitting. There's a little bit of a gap, but we can live with that. I'm actually going to move this onto the wok ring to begin with, because it's got a double burner, so it will get it going a bit quicker, and then I'm going to take it from that ring and put it back onto the ring that it's on, which is just a normal kind of ring, a bit bigger than one of these ones. So down here on the floor, let me talk you through what I've got. So I've got my demijohn inside a deep metal pan on top of a pink towel. Let's start from the bottom upwards. The pink towel protects the laminate from heat. This protects my entire kitchen should the glass fail on the demijohn. Now hot juice is going to be coming out of there. It's going to be literally boiling hot. Now I've not had a demijohn fail yet, and fingers crossed I won't, but should this one fail, then at least that juice will be captured in the pan. So it's now simply a case of putting the burner on. And that's now ignited, and I will expect this to be coming to a boil within the next 20 minutes and steam to start be really doing some business in there within the next 45 minutes. I should expect to see some drips about 45 minutes or so from now. So before we move on, I just want to have a quick look in here, and I want to see if the brewing sugar has dissolved, and in fact it has. So what I'm going to do actually is turn this off. I'm not going to let it come to a simmer. I'm not bothered about the preservative, it doesn't matter. The only negative impact that the preservative will have is that it means that the yeast will just take a little bit longer to get established, but it will still happen, so I'm not bothered. Right, when I start to see some dripping, I'll come back to you. Well, there's very clearly boiling and dripping going on. It will be imminent before we start to see something coming down and into the demijohn. This has been 35 minutes. And 5 minutes after I last spoke, there we go. And that is some hot apple juice that is coming out. So I'm literally now just playing the waiting game. Also note that the level of apples in the top has dropped and the lid now fits snugly. So whilst we're in this condition, what I'm going to do now, you can hear the dripping. So what I'm going to do now is to pour the Mixto and sugar through the apples. And you'll see the colour of what's coming down through the pipe now change to the colour of the Mixto. So a nice flood going on there, lid goes back on, and I'm just going to leave this now to carry on doing its thing. I'm quite happy with how it's going. I'll come back to you in half an hour. It's like a steam train. Right, this has been going an hour now. I'm going to turn it off completely. And that's because I've got to go and do the big shop. So when I come back, I'll put it back on. I'm turning it off because I don't want to leave it, and I don't want that to boil dry, definitely not. That will continue to juice while I'm away, so I'll come back to you in a bit. See you then. Hey folks, I've just got back from the shop. Let's have a look at the steam press, and you will see that the level of apples has dramatically fallen within there. So I'm going to temporarily take this apart so I can top up the water. So first of all, I'm going to lift off the colander basket, put that on a chopping board. I'll show you what I've got in there. So there's plenty of juice in there. I'm going to pour this out by just pouring it forwards in there. You'll see it going out and then down and into the demijohn. Oh, it always makes me need a wee. If I just lift this to the side, we can see how much water is left. It's not used too much actually, so I only need to top it up with about another litre. So I'm going to pop that in, and then I'm going to turn the heat back on, put this back together. And again, in about 30 minutes, that'll be bubbling away, steaming away. The apples will further fall down and I'll get more juice out of them. I'll come back to you then. Well, I've missed the action, but it's all going on now. All right, I missed it starting. But yeah, we're puffing away again. I think that'll be done in an hour. So I'll just keep an eye on it and I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, it's about an hour or so later and this is full, so I am now going to switch off and I'm going to leave it to continue dripping in, and I'll collect as much as I can, but I'll turn the gas off now at this point just to show you the level of the apples from what they were. There you can see that they've definitely gone down. Right, I'm going to let this settle for a bit and I'll come back to you. Right, the steam press has done its job. It's all now switched off, and this is what I have got. I have got a very full demijohn of cider must, and I'm leaving this overnight to cool down. It's far too hot for me to add yeast or anything else to it, so I'm going to leave that to cool down and I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. So I'll catch you tomorrow when I'll add the yeast, the other dry ingredients, and get the brew going. See you in the morning. Morning from the kitchen, folks. It's the next day and now I'm going to finish off that brew and get it going. Let's have a look at it. So here it is. It's been resting overnight. It's now down to room temperature, so it's perfectly fine for me putting the yeast in and getting fermentation going. Incidentally, I've left it with this on top to keep any contaminants out, just in case you're wondering. Right, so I'm going to lift the demijohn out of the pan. That's served its purpose, and I've got a cleaned glass jug here, and what I'm going to do to begin with is pour some of this out into the glass jug, and that's in case it's begun to separate into different layers due to the density of the different aspects of the juice. So I'm just going to pour some out, then I'm going to give what's in here a stir or a mix or a shake. I can't think of the right word. I'm just moving it in circles. And hopefully that will mean that everything is going to be a consistent density that's within there. And then I'm going to pour this back. I have to say, it smells delightful actually. Really lovely smell. Gosh, that's lovely. So I get my trusted funnel in and I'm going to pour this back into the demijohn. It does seem quite syrupy, and that is good sign. Now we've got a bit of froth, but that's to be expected. Right, what I want to do now is take the original gravity by sacrificing 100 ml to my tube, and that leaves just a little bit more headspace in the top of the demijohn. Now that is looking a bit frothy, so I'm going to let that froth die down. So while that froth's dying down, I'll carry on with the brew. So I've got another funnel, a clean one. So I'm going to put 1 and 2 heaped teaspoonfuls of yeast nutrient into the brew. Now, it is going to be very nutritious, that, to be fair, with all the apple juice that's got into it. I think it will be quite good, and that's maybe surplus to requirement, but if it keeps my yeast happy, I'm happy. Pectolase, now this will hopefully help me to achieve some clarity. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've found with the steam press that it's not always great, but there is a residual haze, but never mind. The quality of the cider is pretty good. So I'm going to put 1 and 2 kind of semi-heaped teaspoonfuls of pectolase in there. It's So I've got my yeast, which is Lalvin 71B, and it is good yeast, but it takes a bit of time to get going. I'm expecting it to be day 3 before I see any bubbles in the airlock. It's a slow yeast, and there is that residual preservative in the Mixto, the fake Vimto. So I'm going to just pour a bit in. I'm imagining in my mind that this is the equivalent to a flat teaspoon. That's all you need. It reproduces. And then I can fold that over and come back to that at a later date. I've just got to put a clip on it. So I'm just going to give this a little swish around so the yeast mixes in. It will have a good time in there. Right, I need to find an airlock. So I've got my airlock, bit of water in the bottom. I'm going to pop that in the top, nice seal. And then I'm just going to give my demijohn a little rinse off, just in case I've managed to get any sticky bits and bobs on the outside. Don't like sticky. Right, it's time to take the original gravity for this brew. So in goes the hydrometer. And that's quite a respectable for a moderate cider, not a head case cider, but certainly a cider which is going to be reasonable. And I am starting on an original gravity of 1.048, 1048. So before I go any further, I'm just going to have a little taste of the must because I'm curious. It's delicious. The lovely fruity sweetness of the Mixto contrasts well with the almost citrus quality of the Earl Grey tea bag. That's really nice. I'm hoping that there are some unfermentable sugars in the Mixto and that this will finish towards the medium scale. I think this is really nice. So fingers crossed for a good cider. Right, I'm going to have a bit more of a tidy, get my demijohn labelled, and then I'll come back to you. So there's my demijohn labelled up. I've just got one more final step to do, and this is something I've never done before. So I'm going to cook breakfast shortly. There's my frying pan. I'm just going to put some olive oil, and it is extra virgin olive oil, in the bottom of the frying pan. And into that oil, I'm going to put the end of a toothpick. That's all there is on there. Now, one of my YouTube viewers has left a comment to tell me that if I put the tiniest amount of extra virgin olive oil on the end of a toothpick and then touch the surface of this before fermentation begins, it will stop it from blowing through. Now, I've got to admit, I am sceptical, but it's such a tiny amount, it's not going to taint the brew. I'm going to give it a go. I know it works in stilling, but this is not stilling, this is fermenting. We'll see what happens. So all I've got to do is touch the surface with that. I've done it. Remove it. Put this back in. Okay, let's see if it works. I am sceptical, but we'll find out. Right, I'm in the living room where my cider is going to sit and ferment. So the temperature is currently 18.6 degrees. The fire's not lit, and when the fire is lit, it definitely gets a lot warmer than that in here. So I'm going to come back to you with an update once fermentation has begun. So I'll see you then. And it's brew day 2, and as you can see, it's a lovely sunny day. We've got sun streaming through, which has warmed up the living room. The living room is 19.9 at the minute, and the impact that that's had is that fermentation has begun, and this has begun this afternoon actually. So brew day 2, fermentation's going, and I'm quite happy. Bubbles are not fast and furious yet, but I'm sure it'll get that way. I'll let you know if it blows through. If it doesn't blow through, I'll not get back to you until fermentation's ended. Well folks, I've got a brew day 2 update for you. And yes, as you might have guessed, the olive oil trick didn't work. And we've had a blow through. It's no big drama. I'll give it a clean out. and leave it in here, I think, on the kitchen drainer. So just get that out, give it a rinse through, and pop that back in. I'll just give the outside of the demijohn a little bath, because I've got krausen which has erupted around it. Right, that'll do for now. It's probably going to blow through again, so no big deal. I'll just keep fixing it. I won't keep filming it though, but just letting you know the olive oil trick didn't work. Right, catch you later, folks. Good afternoon to a very busy kitchen for an update with my Vimto and Mixto cider. Today is bottling day. Before I go any further, I apologise about background noises. I've got the mini oven on just here with lunch in. I've got the slow cooker just here with dinner in. The dishwasher's probably going to kick in at some point. It usually does. Anyway, this is brew day 79 for my Vimto and Mixto cider. Let's have a look at it. So here it is in the demijohn. It hasn't cleared and it's not going to clear. It's going to have a haze. A lot of these ciders I've done in the Tectake Steam Press have had a haze. This will be no different. In the glass it will look fine, but in the thickness of the demijohn you can definitely tell the haze, but you can see my fingers through there. It's very cold at the minute. It's -6 outside. There's Yorkshire right now. It's not the best time for bottling and conditioning, so this one's going to take quite a while from me getting it into the bottles to actually drinking it, but that's just fine. Right, let's crack on. So to begin with, I need to put some priming sugar in each of these bottles. I've got 5 700ml bottles and 1 half-size bottle. The priming sugar, I normally use household granulated sugar, but I'm having to use brewing sugar because I've actually run out, and because the weather is as it is, there's actually none in my local supermarket. If we get 3 centimetres of snow in the UK, the economy grinds to a halt. Everybody in the USA and Europe is laughing at us right now, I'm quite sure. So the priming sugar that I'm putting in here will be found by any yeast which is left in suspension in there, and when it finds this sugar it will smash it apart. A byproduct of that will be CO2. The CO2 will build up in the bottles, it will create pressure, and that pressure is what results in carbonation. Fingers crossed anyway. So now I need to get my bung out. It's going to be a bit stiff. Siphoning tube goes in. That's gone a little bit too low. It's gone into the sediment, so I'm just going to drag it up a fraction. And I'm still in the sediment to some extent. I'm going to live with that, because the first bit that comes out will go into my hydrometer tube, and then hopefully it will be clear enough to go into the bottles. And just in case there's any extra, I'll have a glass for a sampler for later. Right, let's crack on. And it's, oh, I forgot, didn't I? Silly me. So the first bit that's gone in that bottle was just pure murk. What's my brain doing these days? I don't know, I'm doing too much, that's what I'm doing. So unfortunately the pure bit of murk that was supposed to go in here has gone into the first bottle. That's going to look sludgy and it's going to have a thick layer of sediment. The rest of them should be okay though. Never mind. I made a silly error, a mindless error. And up and into the second bottle, and look at that reaction to the brewing sugar that's in the bottom of the bottles. That is a lot more than you get with granulated sugar, so I'm probably going to have to top these up. When I say probably, I actually mean definitely. So moving on to bottle number 3, and there we go. Yeah, it's like pouring a pint of Guinness, isn't it? So this is 100% going to be a sparkler. Let's hope it's not a bottle bomb. I did have one of those once, never to be repeated hopefully. And into bottle number 4. Looking at the amount that's in there, I probably could have done 6 full-size bottles here. I just wasn't sure and I didn't want to risk it. So, never mind. I'm never going to complain at having a sampler. into bottle number 5. And I'm going to have to wait a while for this to actually go down a bit, I think. And finally into my last bottle, number 6, the half-size one. So instead of going straight into here, I'm actually going to put some into this clean jug, which will be easier to pour from to top the bottles up. And notice, because there's no priming sugar in that jug, that I'm not getting the big frothing effect that I am in the bottles. So this won't last much longer before it ends. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube tell me that this is over. And I probably would have managed 6 full bottles, but I was erring on the side of caution. It's a case of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Never mind, I'm not bothered. Right, I need to wait for these to settle down a little bit before I can pour from there into these. I'll be back. Right, I'm just going to try and do a little bit of topping. Oh, I don't need it all the way to the top. But I don't want a big gap, because that does sometimes cause your bung to go floosh. Floosh is a new word I've just invented, and that means your bung goes flying and hits the kitchen ceiling. Done that too. And that was because there was too big a gap at the top of the bottle. You learn by doing, you learn by brewing. Okay, I'll come back to you when I'm satisfied that they're all topped up okay. Okay, I've had my bungs softening in very hot water to make them malleable and to give them a final clean. Here's a bottle. Bung goes on top of bottle, palm of hand, and push, and in nicely. Now, when the pressure builds up from the CO2 that will be produced by the secondary fermentation from the yeast meeting the priming sugar, breaking it apart, producing CO2, pressure building up, that bung will go pew. So, floosh. So, cage, essential safety feature, goes on top, twist, 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 until it feels like you don't want to twist it anymore. Nice and neat. That is very securely in place. That is 1 bottle down. I've got 5 more to go. You don't need to see that. I will be back to you very shortly. Right, they're all bunged and caged. I'm just going to give them a little rinse, because there's definitely sticky on the outside of the bottles, and I hate sticky bottles. You can tell how cold it is outside by the temperature difference inside, with the amount of steam coming off the tap as well. Even with the heating on, when it's that cold outside, it is cold inside. Hence the extra vest over my sweater. A sweater vest! Right, I'm going to leave those to drain. Let's have a look at the final gravity for this brew so we can work out the alcohol by volume. So my hydrometer is in the jar, flask, tube, whatever you want to call it. And it has finished on exactly 1.000, 1,000. I thought it might have gone a bit less than that, but it hasn't. That might mean that it's not going to be too dry. Hush hush, hi you I. Let's find out. Give it a little nifter. I have got this, but that's for this evening. It's not too dry at all. In fact, it's very medium. That's the residual sugars that are non-fermentable in the Mixto, and the flavour of the Mixto comes through very pleasantly. I'm not distinctly pulling out the Earl Grey, but there is something else in there, an extra dimension, which must be the Earl Grey. I'm happy with this. I think after conditioning this is going to be a cracker. Right, I need to have a little tidy round. I'll come back to you in a sec to make the labels. Right, before I can make my labels, I need to work out the alcohol by volume for the brew. So I am going to put my original gravity in, which was 1.048. I'm going to deduct from that the final gravity, which was 1.000, which equals 0.048. I'm then going to multiply this by the magic number of 131.25, which equals, drumroll please, 6.3%. That is a very healthy and respectable ABV for my cider. I'm more than happy with that. That's a good result. So I made a nice and simple label using a program called Printmaster on my iPhone. That's connected via Bluetooth to my Fomamo printer, and I've just got to hit print now for the magic to happen. There we go. Work smarter, not harder. Ka-ching. Right, just going to get my labels on my bottles, find a dry bit, make a dry bit. Don't tell the wife, she always tells me off. Right. Okay, 1 down, 5 to go, back in a sec. And there they are, like 6 bottles of summer loveliness, because that's what they will be. In front of my slow cooker. And incidentally, if you are wondering what's for dinner in the slow cooker, I've done a bed of vegetables, which includes sliced courgette, mushroom, onions and cabbage. I've got a gammon joint on top of it, and then I've put around it some ginger, some chilli, some tamarind paste and some coriander. And what I want to achieve is a Thai stroke Indonesian type flavour for the pot, and then I'm going to take the juice out, and there's ample juice, and make the rice with that juice. It's going to be gorgeous. So it's going to be with rice and veggies, gammon rice and veggies, Thai stroke Indonesian style. I think it'll be lovely. Do you want to look? It's going to get steamy, but that's what it looks like so far. It's been going for 5 hours, and very shortly I'm going to turn the gammon over, and it's going to go for another 5. Anyway, that's got naught to do with this brew. Let's get back to this brew. What I would normally do at this point is talk to you about conditioning by putting this on top of my unit in my living room and talking to you about the conditioning process, etc, etc. The unit on my living room is full. My bedroom at the front where they used to go is full. So these are going to go in a box under the stairs, not worth filming, and I'm going to leave them for at least 2 months, maybe 3 months before opening them. It's far too cold for them to condition at the minute. I need the temperature, the ambient temperature in the house to rise to about 18, which it will do in the next few weeks. And then I'm just going to leave it. So I reckon I'll be opening these late spring, early summer. So I'll come back to you then for the opening and tasting. Catch you later, folks. Stop. Sorry. Just for the newbies that haven't watched my channel before, the conditioning process is about letting the flavours develop. Hopefully the Mixto and the Earl Grey and the cider will separate a little bit, so I'll be able to get the distinct flavours from within there, from the apples, from the Mixto and from the tea bags. If I can't, I can't. I think it's still going to be a very pleasant flavour, but what it will also do is allow the pressure to build up and give it a sparkle. Right, this time I am going, and I will catch you for the opening and tasting on what will be brew day 100 and something. See you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks, and at last it is the grand opening and tasting night for my Mixto and Earl Grey cider. Here it is. It is brew day 193. Yeah, I've just left it. I mean, let's have a look at that bottle. You can see that the bung has slightly raised. That's because of the carbonation. So I'm really, well, I say that's because of the carbonation. I'm hoping that's because of the carbonation. So I'm really hoping for a sparkle and a really nice rounded flavour, because this has had plenty of time for that to develop. Why have I left it so long? No particular reason. I just left it. I've had a few brews on the go. Well, I've had a few brews to open, and I've just not been in a rush to do it. And I've been waiting for the weather to change, and now we're going through a lovely April heat wave. What a better way to have an evening in the garden with a nice new cider. Right, let's get this open. Fork needed. So the wire's definitely sharp, and I suspect it's going to break. So yeah, I'm really quite excited about this. I can remember what it tasted like when I had a little sample when I was bottling it, and the Mixto flavour, which is pretty much like Vimto, is really nice. And the Earl Grey did add that little bit of zestiness to it, I think. So I'm really hoping that that is still the case. Gosh, the wire cage hasn't broken. It will live to serve another day. God bless you. Right. I'm going to get a pop. What? That was rubbish. Brew day 193. That was absolutely pathetic. Right, let's have a look at this. There is like a drizzling of bubbles going to the top of the bottle. I've had another cider which has been rubbish as well. What is going on? Am I forgetting to put priming sugar in? I need to rewatch the film. Right. Oh, this is disappointing. This is not the cider I wanted. Oh. I mean, it's got a bit of frothiness on top because I've just poured it in sloppily. But that's pathetic. That is genuinely very, very disappointing. It reminds me of my GCSEs. Right, let's have a sniff. Oh, my A-levels were worse. Now, it's got a nice heady bouquet, as they say. No, it has got a nice smell. And the flavour's lovely, actually. Oh, there's a definite sparkle on the tongue. It's just not a big gassy monster. And I know a few of them. No. I think I'm going to say it is actually a success despite my aspersions just then. It definitely is sparkling on the tongue. It's beyond effervescence. It's not a gassy monster. There aren't loads of bubbles in it, but there are undoubtedly some bubbles because carbonation has happened, albeit very, very mildly. Now, at brew day 193, if it ain't carved, it ain't carbing. Okay, so I've got to say that this is probably as good as it's going to get. Now, did I not put enough priming sugar in? Had the yeast pretty much expired? Have I left it too long in the bottle and some of the CO2's leaked out and it's lost pressure? I don't know. But yeah, okay, so I was thinking in my mind, do I do another opening and tasting in a few weeks' time? I don't think I'm going to bother actually, because there is definite carbonation there. It's just not a lot. Now, in terms of flavour, it's quite lovely. It's a beautiful summer drink. It's got a slight dark fruits flavour, actually. The sweetness of the unfermentable sugars in the Mixto has been preserved completely, and the flavour of the Mixto is just really nice with cider. So if you can get hold of Vimto, or anything like Vimto, Mixto was a cheap version of it, it does go well with cider. I'm thinking about trying it with stout, actually. But no, this is good. It's a good flavour. Now, the Earl Grey, there is a tanginess afterwards. There is something afterwards that's there. I'd never guess Earl Grey, ever. But I think it has added something to it, but it's very, very, very subtle. So I've seemed to have had 4 seasons in one day with this. I've gone from despair to actually, it's actually nice. So no more despair. It isn't a huge gas fest, but it is a big taste fest. So I am going to enjoy this tonight, and I won't do another opening and tasting. But what I will do is I'll keep a bottle aside for, let's say, 6 months, and I'll have another look at it then. Right, it's been a pleasure, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the film. It is now April 2025. My apple tree is covered in blossom. I'm hoping for a bumper year this year, and I hope you all have one too. So cheers, folks. It's been a pleasure as always, and I'll catch you on the next film, whatever that may be. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.